to see her patronage and support of that.
Absolutely.
And, you know, there's a lot that the Queen understands about trade in Britain. Indeed, let's talk about her fashion. I think we're about to see the Queen herself in her open-topped car with the Duke of Edinburgh coming out of the gates of Buckingham Palace. And
it's not green, Kirsty.
What? No, it is definitely not green. What is this that she's wearing today?
She's in I would say that's fuchsia and magenta.
Oh, yeah, fuchsia.
In fact, Twiggy, there's a very... You've really correlated it well.
This morning.
There was clearly a word.
She is so stylish.
And there...
And standing
well
up.
done, well done, both of them.
Brilliant.
And you can hear the crowds cheering for her. She's in an Angela Kelly hat and a couture coat by Karl Ludwig, and she looks absolutely beautiful. You see that lovely bow brooch that she's wearing, and they are in what we all like to call the Queenmobile, but of course it has a proper name, and it's the State Review, and they used it most recently in Windsor, and you don't need to explain why they're using it. It's pretty obvious. They can see everything and they can be seen.
And of course, as we know, that's a beautiful scene actually, as you see the Mall sort of parted there almost like the Red Sea, and the Queen and the Duke waving and saying hello and acknowledging the many, many thousands, indeed around about 10,000 people who are here today for the Patron's lunch.
It is, the sea is quite connected with the Mall, you know, and the Duke of Edinburgh is the Lord High Admiral. He has the highest title of anybody associated with the Navy. He was a naval officer himself. And they're going from the Queen Victoria Memorial, which on the base of it has Neptune, the god of the sea, and they're going along the Mall. Every single lamppost on the Mall has at the top of it a different ship or galleon, and they'll reach eventually Admiralty Arch, and the sea motif is continued in all the decorations. All the street furniture in the Mall has a nautical feel. It's just about half a nautical mile long, and ends, of course, at Admiralty Arch, and then leads you to Trafalgar Square, where the great naval commander Lord Nelson is commemorated.
I'm glad to see that the Duke is in his raincoat, because last time at the Diamond Jubilee he got terribly wet and terribly cold, so he's dressed appropriately for the weather, isn't he?
Absolutely.
And the Queen, I think they're just reaching out her hand to see if it is raining, and I have to say somebody up there likes her, because this is as close as we've gotten to sunshine today. The clouds are indeed beginning to part.
But she looks divine. I mean, she is so stylish. I hope I look as stylish when I'm her age, I have to say.
You will.
Looks
you do, and you will. But what's interesting about this is you see they're waving always to the crowds, never to the cameras. They're very hot on this. They actually talk about, the Duke of Edinburgh certainly does, not being celebrities. They don't see themselves as that. The Duke of Edinburgh once said to me, the Queen, when she first became Queen, went to Australia. Millions of people turned out in the street, and it would have been corrosive if she'd taken it for herself. She knows it's for the position she holds, and deliberately does not play ever to the cameras. If she sees a camera, she'll ignore it. It's the people she's waving to.
And indeed, we saw that. We were talking, without being too flippant about it, about the double act that is the Queen and her husband. On Friday, Giles, as you and I sat watching the live pictures and just chatting about them, of Her Majesty and her husband getting to the top of the steps at St. Paul's, and they had a big task ahead of them, which was to sit through this very important service of Thanksgiving, and yet there was just a little word from the Duke, and turned they did and waved to the crowd.
And they do it together, and as a result of them doing it together, you will notice that William and Catherine stand on the same side. When they go down during the walkabout, they are together. Once upon a time, Prince Charles and Diana would do it on separate sides, and now William and Catherine always go down together. They are a double act again. They don't do it separately, they're doing it together. In fact, they're really a trio, William, Harry and Catherine. The charity behind all this is their joint charity run by the three of them. This really is a family business. And the role model are these two people. Prince Philip, they're actually chatting to the crowd. He's calling out. We want to hear what those... This is when, if only we could lip read, we would really be at an advantage.
There is an element. I mean, you say it's interesting and it sounds entirely credible as you describe it, that there is no playing to the cameras, because that is not the business that they're in. The business they're in is in connecting with the people. But so often I have read that the Queen said, you know, I have to be... I mentioned this to you before, Giles, I have to be seen to be believed, that there is an element of... Now, I once said to you performance, and you gave me a ticking off. Is it not performance?
It's not a performance,
no.
Very consciously.
It's not a performance.
But it is an appearance.
Yes.
Therefore, she takes... The photographs have to be taken, and that is why the outfit, these strong, vibrant colours, are deliberate. She knows that she's a small person up on that balcony. She's got to be seen. And that's why she wears these vivid colours. but they're not performing.
Perfect colour for today, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, she wouldn't have known when she decided what colour she was going to wear, whether it was going to be sunny or not. But it's such a dull day, and she just stands out. Look at
Giles,
her,
we were
radiating.
watching earlier today, you giving us all a short history lesson on the history of the Mall. I mean, this is, to call it a street doesn't quite seem to cover it, but this is a great ceremonial part of London.
It was built as a ceremonial street for this very purpose, in order to enable people to actually see the monarchy. And when it was designed, we were the great seafaring nation. And hence the idea of it being half a nautical mile, hence the idea from the Victoria Memorial with Poseidon or Neptune, depending whether you are Greek or Latin in your gods of the sea, that he sets off the Mall, and then you can proceed down. And all those lampposts along there, you can see them. The top of each one is going to be a different galleon.
And Katie Nicholas, you are watching these pictures today as a royal biographer and as somebody who, you very often appear as a royal correspondent on overseas channels in Australia. You write for Vanity Fair, which is an American-based magazine. All of these images, as much as we, so many of us love to see them here in Britain, goodness knows they are still consumed with great fervour and engagement and interest all around the world.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes I think there's actually more interest in them overseas, particularly in America. And when I'm overseas in the States, they just can't get enough.
Because I work a lot in America, and the first question they ask me in America, have you ever met the Queen? And
I think it's because they don't have a royal family of their own.
This also is brand Britain, and it's above politics. You can forget the referendum. Oh, how wonderful! And just celebrate Britishness. 1,000 years epitomised here.
In just a couple of minutes' time, when the Queen and Prince Philip get to the end of the Mall, we will be handing over to Claire Balding, who is going to be the MC for proceedings. Now, what? Now this I like.
Oh,
Did you see that?
Is he instructing
Prince
the
Philip
driver?
he just rattled on the roof of that beautiful Range Rover and said, "Hurry up, hurry up! You're going too slowly." Now that is something of the character of the man. He doesn't suffer. I'm not saying the driver's a fool, but he doesn't suffer fools gladly.
Absolutely
this man.
not.
He certainly doesn't.
It's really frustrating. If you are a photographer, the Queen will be very patient with you. But Prince Philip, you get 3 shots, 30 seconds,
Then
and
you're out.
he's up. He's up and he's
Oh, and there he's
He's always in a hurry.
And when he, I mean, sometimes people say, I shouldn't say, which I do, that the Queen wears the crown, but he wears the trousers. As you could see, it's now moving at a slightly different pace on the instructions of the Lord High Admiral himself.
Now, we know that the Lord High Admiral turned 95 on Friday. Do we know, as you do sometimes have a bit of an inside steer on these things, Giles, did he raise a flute on Friday night? Did he have a party? Did he celebrate?
No, curiously, he's rather anti-personal celebration. He is a very stoical figure, and I think one of the reasons that these people are happy is that they don't think about themselves very much. The Queen does all this because it's part of her duty. They're not self-conscious. They don't read biographies of themselves. They won't look at the newspaper coverage of this particularly. They're just doing what they feel they have to do. So
They got there on time, I think. They were...
they're back on schedule.
Yes, I think
Exactly, should be.
he's made sure of that. And
Next
so
time he'll be up there in a carriage with 4 ponies, which of course he does still ride. You know, that'll be fast enough.
He also is very good at protecting the Queen. He sees that as his principal